Hello! So we are doing our second Body Love IG series today in October, and we have Lydia joining us today. And while I wait for her to join on here, I just wanted to talk to anybody that hasn't watched one of these before, doesn't know who I am. My name is Amanda Bicking, and I'm the owner of Mend. I am a stylist. I'm an intuitive stylist, style clairvoyant is one of the things I say. Body love coach. Lots of things, all things style, and bringing communities of women together. So before we get started too, and while I'm waiting for Lydia to join, if you watch these and you're interested in sharing your story, just DM me afterwards. I'll keep these going as long as people want to share. I think that it's very valuable to hear each other's stories and relate to each other, and maybe hear something we haven't experienced as well, and really get this community of love and sharing going. And if you have any style vulnerabilities, body confidence issues, want to reinvent what your style looks like, send me a DM, hit the link in bio. I think I have an offer called the 30-Day Style Journey that I think really can encompass a lot of the things that we're talking about today: body confidence, knowing your measurements, knowing your body shape, and just working with someone who's going to cheer you on, pull styles that are authentic to you and get you feeling, looking on the outside how you feel on the inside, and just really bringing all the pieces together and getting you feeling really good about yourself and really confident in what goes on your body and what's in your surroundings, and also what's in your mindset too. So I see Lydia's joining. Okay, here in just a second. I see Nori's here. Hi, Nori. And I'm excited to do this morning. We have an early one here today. Hi, Lydia.
Hello.
And Lydia, because we are on a Saturday morning, Lydia, are you in Paris? I know you're
I'm in
French.
Paris, yeah, so
You're
it's
Paris.
3:30 now, so it's already the afternoon. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so glad we were able to make this work, and that's what I love about the work I've been doing this year, and honestly, kind of a pro out of this whole pandemic season is like getting to meet people all
Mm,
around the globe and like expanding this network. And I don't know, for me, I'm such a like community-led person that it's felt really good. So I'm so excited that you're
yeah,
here.
I love it as
Yeah.
well. I met so many people during COVID online,
Yeah.
and yeah, some of them just became like my best friends, so it's really amazing
Yeah.
what we can do nowadays. So
I
yeah.
know, and I'm such like a one-on-one, like interpersonal connector. So it's really cool to see
Mm,
I can still do that,
yeah,
through all this technology and everything.
yeah.
So yay, I'm so glad you're here. So Lydia, what I like to do in the beginning so that I don't forget is have you introduce yourself, tell people what you do as well. I want to make sure
Mm-hmm.
people know that and where to find you. And then after that, we can start to just go whatever direction you want to go, what you want to share. I'll ask some follow-up questions and just
Yeah.
where the natural conversation goes, but I want to make sure that we get your introduction in.
Okay, great. So I'm Lydia. I'm from Germany, but living in France. I've like lived in many different places. I've also lived in Australia for a few years, and yeah, I became a coach in 2019, I think. And yeah, a lot of things have happened since then, but I'm basically an energy healer and a coach. And I'm working with women who want to feel connected to themselves, want to feel confident with who they are. I also, that's like, my offer is like shifting a little bit at the moment. So I'm also really working with, people who have trauma and yeah, like family issues. And so yeah, it's always transitioning, and yeah, but basically it's really, finding peace with who you are as a person and being just sovereign. Don't be dependent on like other people's opinions or
Yeah.
validation. So that's what I do. And yeah, people can find me on Instagram. It's Lydia Schanz, I think, and my website is lydiaschanz.com. So it's quite easy to find me. Yeah, that's it.
This sounds like such, I mean, I think what sounds really good with that is that you can work with a lot of different things, but you're that support throughout, right? Like you're the you're the person, the stability in there to help work through that. So I think that's
Yeah. Yeah.
good. Awesome. Well, I guess the first question I'll ask is what inspired you, or what made you feel called to raise your hand and share your story today?
Yeah, it's interesting because I really didn't share much about my story until last year. Oh, sorry, I have a little.
Oh, you're fine.
I hope you can see me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see you. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I didn't really share my story before last year because I was kind of embarrassed about it, and I was like very private. I didn't share that part of my life with anyone. So like a little background, I had a lot of issues with my body and with my body image. Basically, since I was 12, 13 years old, I did many diets. I also developed an eating disorder when I was about, yeah, 14, 15, and I only resolved it last year. I only like healed from it last year. And in this whole like process of especially healing as well, I was really called to share this with other people because I noticed that when I shared it with people who were close to me, friends or people I met, and they just had, so many of them had like the same or similar issues. And it was just so crazy to see that, you have these issues and you always think that you're alone, and, that you're like not normal, that like everybody else is kind of handling their life and their relationship with food and with their body, but it's actually so there's so many people, and especially women, struggling with this. And I think me sharing my own story, what I hope is that it can inspire others to to connect with it, and to also maybe get inspired, and also be able to heal, or heal, like, yeah, advance in their own healing journey. And so when I saw your Body Love series, I was like, okay, I just want to share my story with people. Maybe it helps one person or two people, or yeah.
I have been so honored and also so blown away. Like, I don't have a big following yet, right? And I was like, wow, like there's people that are willing to be vulnerable and share, and like you said, to be able to share these stories with other people. And I mean, for me, it's also very scary too. This is not like my jam, or like being in front of a lot of people, like talking about these things. But every time I've been able, especially to do it with another person or another woman or someone that's been through something similar, there it is, like, I think inherently very healing, because like you said,
Yeah.
you don't feel alone, and even if it's
Yeah.
not your specific journey, like you said, odds are somebody's gone through something that's been, difficult in how they see themselves, maybe especially with their body, that sort of thing. And it takes time, like what you're
Yeah.
saying about, just this past year healing it. I mean, I think I said last time, I also went through an eating disorder that would like ebb and flow. There was periods where it was really bad, and it was, I don't, I didn't start doing healing till this last year on lots of things, but I think for me, what kind of nicely happened is after I had children, there's just something different about how I viewed my body
Oh,
that really inherently helped with that. But there's still triggers, there's still
interesting.
things that I have to notice and like adjust to, that it's always going to be a journey, but how you react to it or notice it or that sort of thing is what can be different about it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's never something that just goes away and you never think about it again. It's like always going to be a part of your life or who you
Yeah.
are. Not necessarily like the eating disorder, but just like this, the topic of it. And
Yeah.
even, I consider myself as like healed from my eating disorder, but there's still days where I overeat or where I feel triggered or where I use food to like comfort myself. And that's okay. I'm like really not, I'm trying to be not too strict with myself because of the history with,
Yeah.
eating disorder and all of that. So I think that's something that's important to keep in mind, but you can definitely get to a point where you feel like it's not controlling you anymore, and it's
Yeah.
not, yeah.
I enjoy seeing some of your stories where because you eat vegan, right?
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm vegetarian for the most part. But I like you take, photos of like the different food that you found that's like delicious vegan food because that can be
Yeah.
hard, right? And I'm like, it's really nice to see it because it's like so beautifully plated and all of that, and it like gets me in this like, even though I'm not sharing this meal with you like in person, like it's gets me like excited about the food, like has it be feels like more of an experience, feels more of
Mm,
like a luxury. Whereas I've always been like a fast eater. I've just
yeah.
like I can be a consumer, like a consumer of food, consumer of clothing, like all of that. Like I can like get in these moments where I really binge on lots of things. And so for me, like slowing down and like savoring and enjoying it is
Mm,
like a whole process, and seeing things like beauty, because I'm a visual person and love seeing beauty in things, like seeing food in that way has been really kind of just like a thing I've noticed changing that I haven't
yeah.
like tried to change on its own, but it's just like naturally changing. I'm like, oh, that's so
Yeah,
cool.
it's
Like,
amazing. Yeah, because
yeah,
it is an experience, right? It's like
yeah,
food is amazing. It tastes amazing. It's also there to make us feel good, obviously,
right.
but it gets tricky when we use it as yeah, as like we use it to fill a hole or to not feel any emotions or to it's yeah, it's when we misuse it in
Control.
that way that's like problematic, but I'm such a foodie. I love going out and
Yeah,
to go to vegan restaurants, eat like really nice things.
yeah.
It just yeah, I love it. I could never, not do it because yeah, it's
Yeah. No,
just
I love it too.
tired
It's
of
like so it literally like puts me in the mindset like I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful. Like that food looks so good. And vegan food can be a challenge to find like in a restaurant and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, it's just like nice. It feels like my north node is in Taurus, so I'm supposed to be like experiencing, like moving towards luxury or like enjoying things or savoring
mm,
things. And it's just been like something I've noticed that I've never, I mean, people have been taking photos of beautiful food for a long time, but it's like something
mm.
that's like changed recently.
Ah,
I also think,
interesting.
yeah, I also think it's because I've gone out with some friends like just a few times recently with all the things very carefully and all that. And I'm like, oh my God, it's like my senses are like exploding because we haven't got to do it in so long. And I'm
Yeah.
like, the people, the food, like all of it is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So I love
a
that.
different experience when you've been locked up for a year or
Yeah.
longer. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so where do you see yourself like on your journey now? Like how do you, I mean, I know you said like of course there's still things that have been worked on, and but you feel like you heal yourself. Like how do you see your relationship with your body now, or how has it changed, or um what do you notice, or what do you work through? I
Mm,
guess those are a lot of questions, but I'm just giving you ideas, I guess.
yeah. Well, yeah, as I said, I started dieting when I was like 13 years old, so I've hated my body for like my whole life.
Yeah.
Just like really, really hated myself,
Mm-hmm.
which is like crazy to think about now because I'm like, oh my gosh, how can you hate yourself? Like, it's so sad. But
Yeah.
this comes from, I'm not gonna go like into detail, but this comes from like, childhood trauma, religious trauma, my family, and always being like criticized for who I am and never really being accepted for who I am and how I am and how I look like. So um, yeah, so I've really, really hated and criticized myself heavily uh, until quite recently. I would say maybe now I'm 30 years old, so maybe until I was like 27,
Mm-hmm.
27, yeah. Um, and the eating disorder was also always there and was really controlling my life. I never knew like when the next binge is gonna, come. And
Yeah.
sorry, my dog is trying to play with
Oh,
me.
you're good. This is yeah.
So yeah, so it was always this like fight with myself. I was always in some kind of battle with myself and hating myself for binging, hating myself for not looking the way I wanted to look, hating myself for just being alive, sometimes. So
Right.
yeah. And it was also, like you said, ebb and flow, sometimes it was more intense, sometimes it was less intense. And then last year, I was like, okay, stop. Like, I need to stop this. I had a really, really tough time with, in terms of like binge eating. Beginning of last year, just before COVID, I was spending a few months in Australia to do my Kundalini activation training, and I was just really, I don't know, it was just really stressful. It was really amazing and good, but like a lot of stuff came up, and so it really translated into my eating behavior and all of that. So it got to a really, really like dark point where I was just like, okay, I really need to do something about this. And I've tried a lot of different things before. I've tried therapy, I've tried online programs, I've tried like so many different things, but nothing really worked. And
Mhm.
it's just like, people say, oh, you just need to make the decision to stop
Yeah.
something or to start something or whatever. And that's it. But it's actually, yes, it's a decision. It's like a moment when you decide, I'm gonna, like, this is over now, I'm gonna stop. But there's like this whole process before of coming to that point where you can make the decision, because if you could just make a decision to do whatever, then, nobody would have any problems anymore, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's it's really I think for me it took like all those years to come to a point where I was like able to make that decision.
Yeah.
And for some people that can take shorter or longer. Like there's not really a rule, I think. And so I did this like intensive weekend, which was like a mix of different practices, but it was like NLP, timeline therapy. Yeah. So I worked with a coach and for a weekend where what I wanted to work on was basically my eating disorder, but it went super deep and we basically came to the core of like all my issues, and
Yeah.
the eating disorder is just like one of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not only an eating disorder, it's like where does it come from? It doesn't just appear,
Right.
and so like my core like fear or belief about myself is just that I'm not good enough, I'm not enough the way I am. And I think a lot of people have this belief, and that's creating all kinds of issues in your body and in your world. So yeah, and so we basically worked on that, and that was the start of like my healing journey in terms of eating and in terms of accepting myself more. And yeah, so that was last year. Where I'm now is, yeah, I'm still in the process. I'm not done. I'm not nearly to
Yeah.
finish.
Yeah.
You're never done anyway, but I would say that I'm not loving my body or myself. Like well, I love myself, but I don't necessarily always love my body. I
Right.
would say that I'm okay with, you know, who and how I am right now.
Yeah.
Sometimes more, sometimes less. Sometimes I still have days where I'm just like, hating everything about me. But in general, I would say that I'm much, much, much better. I'm much more advanced in my healing journey as I was, for example, last year or the year before, because they're just like the times where I feel good about myself get longer, or there are like more days where I just feel okay with, how I am, who I am, how I look like. So yeah, but there's still a lot of times and moments where I get triggered, and then I have I'm emotionally eating, or I don't feel 100% confident with myself. So it's really, yeah, it's really, it's not like black and white. It's like somewhere in
Yeah.
between.
Yeah. Of course not.
Um, yeah, but it's definitely, yeah, it's changed so much. And what's funny sometimes is when I go, I've joined like a lot of Facebook groups, for people who have like binge eating disorder and all of that. And when I sometimes read the comments, like they seem so extreme, and like I'm like shocked about some comments that I read. But then I'm thinking, okay, I used to be like a couple of years ago, I said exactly the same things, or I thought exactly the same things about myself.
Yeah.
So it's so weird sometimes to like when you grow, sometimes you don't realize how much
Right.
you've grown until you see like, whoa, 1 year ago I was like still thinking this and that about myself. So yeah, so that's
Yeah, there's so much you said there that I'm like, oh, agreeing with her, head
Yeah.
nodding, or great points. But I think I'm like trying to think what I wanted to start with. The saying like you just want to start something or you're just deciding to do it, like that really resonates with me because for some people that does work. Like I
Yeah.
do know people that their motivation or their driven is very internal and they don't need anyone else. They don't need the timing. Like they can just do it. And it's always
Mm,
baffling to me because I'm not like that. So then there's,
yeah.
people that it takes time. Like maybe someone's told you the same thing or you've heard it from multiple
Mm,
people. And even like there's been times I'm like, I'll hear something and I think I'm accepting of it. I'm like, yeah, that
yeah.
makes sense. But like it hasn't like clicked for like the action to happen. And
Yeah.
then like, time passes and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah. Or like now I'm
Mm,
ready for it. And then there's times you're not ready for it too. And you're not. But
yeah, exactly. It's all
I
about the integration, like intellectually, like we know a
yes.
lot, right? I know what my patterns are, I know what my triggers are, I know, but then the trigger happens and I'm just like incapable, like my body's incapable of just like being logical and saying, oh, that's just a trigger, you don't need to
Yeah.
engage in it. But it's just like, it's really the embodiment that hasn't happened yet, like the integration into your body. So yeah, it's super interesting.
Oh, I love that you said integration. I was just talking about this with someone the other day. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
think we talk so much about like the action, the healing, the thing, and I don't think we talk that much about the integration. And it's
Mm,
probably because like integration is there's no timeline. There's no, it's not black and white. Like
mm,
it's something you can practice and play with and take slowly, have happen quickly. It's just different for everybody and where
yeah,
you're at and all of that. And so I also think it's hard to sell, to be frank. Like I think that's why it's also not talked about that
for
much,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
Like
People just want the quick fix and, the thing to happen. But integration, I've learned this like also over the last years, it's like, it's such a vital part of the whole process. It's so, so, so important. Yeah. And it should not be underestimated, I think.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, I love everything you're saying there because I was just thinking of like moments for me where like something's clicked or something's happened. And for me, the thing I struggle with all the time is like I do this to get this action. Like my root chakra is always on fire. Like my friends
Mm,
who know me really well know this about me. And usually it's like when I'm not focusing on it and I just take a breath, that's when it happens, right? Because I'm not
yeah.
just like flooded by it. Just like how I said, a lot
Yeah.
of my healing came from having my kids. Like it wasn't because I was like in awe of what my body could do. I mean, all those things were wonderful, but that wasn't like the thing. It was just like I had them, a little bit of time passed, and I was like, wow, like I'm starting to feel like myself again. And what does
Oh,
myself
wow.
like mean now? And like, how is this
Yeah.
different? And it was more like, I did this thing, and this thing that like you fear is very fearful for your body. Like, how am I going to look afterwards? What's going to change? Like
Mm,
that sort of thing. And it was just like, this is not the case for everybody, but like everything's okay. And like, there are
mm,
things I don't love now that have changed, all that kind of stuff too. But I wasn't trying, and I'm not saying people shouldn't try, but it's that like integration
mm,
thing, right? Like I tried some things that happened, like, and I think I was much more in a state of reflection than I had ever been,
mm,
that just kind of like
yeah.
let things unfold. And what you were saying, the other thing I love what you're saying about is like sometimes you don't notice how far you've come because you've been in the journey. It's like I was talking to a bunch of friends last night about children growing. Like they're growing literally like in front of you, and you can't see it
Mm,
until you like see something different one
yeah.
day, or you see a photo or something like that. And I think that's like ourselves too. Like sometimes we can't see it because we're in it
Yeah.
until we see it in someone else, or we see
Mm,
picture of ourselves, and we can
mm,
see the difference in our energy or something.
yeah. And I guess we're always so focused on, okay, I want to go to the next thing. I want to,
What's
I
next?
want to improve. I want to, so we're always like chasing like what's next, but we're never really, or I think we should
I am all the
more be
time.
in, yeah, we
Yeah.
should more like sometimes just stop and reflect and see how far we've come, and also celebrate like the wins, because when you're always just like chasing the next thing, then it's never going to be enough. So yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's also super important. Mm.
Yeah. I was just having a
Mm.
conversation with a friend the other day too. Like I was talking about my business and I was talking about like thinking ahead because I said I always feel like I'm very reactionary. Like I'm just
Mm.
like trying to like make things happen and get things done and all of that. And yet at the same time I was like, well, in December I'm going to take it more easy, or I'm going to do this, or like I don't know if
Mm.
this thing will happen. And she's like, how are you thinking about December right now? And I was like, because I'm trying to like get ahead, because I'm always like, I feel like I'm always underwater. I'm always doing the thing, but I'm
Mm.
also like trying to plan for rest. And she's just like, you just need to like slow down right now.
Yeah. Stay in the present. Stay
Yeah,
in the present.
exactly.
I think that's really so important. And it's so easy to say, right? Like stay in the present. Yeah, it's easy, but it's not easy to do like a lot of times. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like noticing the things that can get you there. Like I've started to notice that when I get depressed. I get anxious. I'm my head. I'm an air sign, so I'm just like always like all up in
Mm.
here.
Yeah.
It can be very difficult for me to get grounded. I've like kind of noticed like almost like a checklist in my mind of like what gets me grounded. It's like being in the
Mm.
sun, putting perfume on for some reason, because I think I'm like a sensorial person. Like
Mm.
certain types of
Yeah.
music. It's almost like a formula. Like, oh, I don't feel great. Maybe I should go
Yeah.
sit downstairs near the window. Like put on this type of music, maybe light a candle.
Mm.
Um, and I think that's like learning too. Like that's just
Yeah.
like, and being like having gratitude for when I notice one of those things too. Like, oh, I'm really
Mm.
grounded right now. What am I doing? How can I do this again? Can I go to a farmer's market with my daughter? That was amazing that day we did it,
Mm.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's sometimes really the small things that, we always think it needs to be so complicated and we need to do so much for it, but sometimes it's just like the really basic things that bring us back to, to the earth or yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So, how has your style been affected with this whole journey you've been on, and how you see yourself and what you put on your body and all of that?
Mm. Mm, I guess that, yeah, it's an interesting question. Um, I always I've always been feeling that, my style is not really my style. Like it's not,
Mm,
I buy things I like and, I'm quite okay with my clothes and whatever, but it's not how I want to fully express myself.
mhm,
But I have so much difficulty finding, okay, what is actually my styles, What is actually, how can I combine things? What would fit me, what would be something I love. And sometimes I find like really cool pieces that I really love wearing, and where I feel like 100% expressive of myself. But a lot of times it's not the case,
mhm.
and I just think that I haven't maybe found myself yet,
Yeah,
and how I want to show up in the world, how I want to express myself in the world. I mean, it's like I've also quite done quite some work on that, and it's getting better and better. But yeah, not knowing who you are and like how you want to show up in the world is, I think, also translating into your style, because you
yeah,
kind of connect with what you love, what you want to wear, what you can combine, and all of that. So I think it's really, really interesting. And sometimes I look at other people when I see them on the street and I see them, they have like such a cool style. And I'm like, wow, I would love to be able to have that as well, and like wearing things every day that I feel good in and that I feel excited about, if that makes sense.
yeah,
And not just wearing something because, okay, it rains, so I'm going to wear this, but it's actually not really what I want to wear. I don't
yeah.
know if that makes sense, but yeah, it's
Oh, it
something
makes so much sense. Yeah,
yeah.
I was like, I should write that down. Like, not because you said it so well. Like, yeah, not knowing yourself, or it definitely reflects in your style. And I think, I mean, that's shown up for me in so many ways because I love clothing. I love fashion. I love like it's just again it's that beauty, like those things. I love
Mm,
beautiful things, visual things. And so a lot of times I want it all or like I want to try it all or do the things and I think that's kind of ingrained in some of us too because of
mm,
how quickly the fashion cycle works and how there's always new things and all of that and so that like you said knowing yourself and maybe even knowing about you that you don't have a signature style. Like I think sometimes
mm.
it's like the opposite where it's like, what is my, or like what's my capsule wardrobe or whatever. Like for some
Yeah.
people, that's not for them. For some people, they are supposed to change all
Mm.
the time and maybe try
Yeah, that's
trends
true.
and
Yeah.
there are people like that and so sometimes it's just giving your permission to yourself to be like that's okay, and then for
Yeah.
other people it's more appropriate like that they don't go after all the new things or the trends and
Mm.
are they take a slower time to
Yeah.
find what works for them, that sort
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, like knowing, and that's why I use the archetypes or the characters in the work that I do because it's helped me so much to be like not like almost like remove myself for just a minute to be like
Mm.
who the character I am or I want to embody. I usually work with like who like you are at your root. So you can
Yeah.
say, I'm the queen
Sorry,
and
one
whatever this.
second, Amanda. I'm just gonna
Oh,
put
you're
my dog
fine.
outside because he's making a lot of noise.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you're fine.
Sorry, I cut you
You are
off.
all
It's
good.
just
It's the reality of being at home. It's all good. I get it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, understanding who you are, like you said, is crucial. The thing I also love about style is that I think it lets you play a little bit with who you want to be too that day, like what you want
Mm,
to embody. And
yeah.
so I did a photo shoot yesterday for my brand and
Yeah, I saw it. Looks
very,
amazing.
very nervous beforehand and all of
Yeah.
that. And I kept being like, what do I want to show up as? And I was still very nervous, and it took me definitely a hot second to like loosen up because I'm very much like
Mm,
a rigid person when all eyes are on me, or like this is a photo for me. And then as soon as other
mm,
people came and it was like community and love, like I was like totally fine. But when it
mm,
was just me, I was like shoulders up, rigid the whole
mm,
time. But what I was trying to do to help myself was like, how do I want to show up like right now? What's that
mm,
mindset? Like, do I want to
mm,
embody the CEO today of my business? Like, how would a CEO take these pictures? They'd probably be a
mm.
badass, right? Which
Yeah.
is not like a flip the switch button for me, but just kind of trying to help. But you can do that with your fashion too. And
Mm,
I think that's freedom too, that you can play.
yeah.
Like today,
Yeah.
or even it's just like today I want to feel cozy. And what does cozy look like for me? It could be
Mm,
sweatpants. It could also be what I do a lot, which is like linen pants, but they have elastic
mm,
waistband in them, so they might as well be sweatpants, but they look a little bit more dressed up.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think it's fun. I think you can kind of like
Yeah,
you
you can play
can,
with it, and it's
yeah,
supposed to be fun, right?
yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
for me, it's more of like a heavy topic, you know? Like I don't really
yeah,
like thinking about it because it's like something else I need to do or I need to know or I need to work on.
yeah,
But that's not how it should be, you know? It should be light, it should be fun, it should be playful. And yeah, that's also, there's nothing more exciting than like loving what you're wearing and just feeling really good in it and like really sexy and you go out
yeah,
and like it's such a different feeling,
yeah,
like it makes such a big difference, and not in like the superficial way of like, oh, it's super important what you wear and like everything else doesn't matter, but more of like, okay, expressing myself through my style as well, through my clothes as well, and not only through how I'm showing up, what I'm saying, how I'm talking and all of that. So yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's just another tool in a way to make you, yeah, feel like
Mm.
you can express yourself or feel really good about yourself. Like maybe you're a runner and you get that high, you know, from working out or doing that thing and that's like your thing, but you can also, and that's a tool, right? But like
Mm.
your style and how you utilize clothing or accessories or just how you do your hair that day or not is another tool that can,
Yeah.
when you find yourself in it, like when you can connect to it and be like, this is me, or yeah, I look really good in this,
Mm.
like today, that can give you that high, that dopamine hit too,
Yeah.
in all the
Yeah.
other ways. So I just see it as a tool in your toolbox. And
Yeah.
some days,
True.
maybe it's appropriate to use as a lever, and maybe other days, it's your other tool in your toolbox, you know,
Mm.
going on a run, doing meditation, whatever that
Mm.
might be.
Yeah.
Um, it was funny yesterday, like I don't wear a whole lot of makeup these days, and I had more makeup on yesterday than I have in a really long time for the photo shoot, and I did it, and I'm like walking around gathering stuff up, and my friend was here, and I like looked in the mirror to go grab something, and I was like, oh, who is that person? My God. I haven't seen myself in makeup in forever. And I was joking,
Mhm.
but I was also like, whoa, and
Yeah.
this is not appropriate for me every day. Like, this is not, I don't want to put the energy into this every
Mm.
day, but wow, this feels nice, like today.
Yeah. Sometimes you forget the feeling, because it's been ages, and I'm thinking about COVID. Like, I was just in, yeah, sweatpants every day, and it was just like
Yeah.
normal. And then all of a sudden you wear like something nice, and you're like, oh, I almost forgot how it felt like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did like what you said, or wanted to point out what you said though about it style can feeling difficult to you because it feels like another thing to like think about or like
Mm.
energy with. And I did want to recognize that because it's not just like an easy thing for everybody.
Mm.
It can take your energy. And for me, I hear myself saying that a lot about other things, like
Yeah.
that should be fun. And I'm like, oh, it's just
Mm.
another thing I have to do, you
Yeah,
know?
another chore like on your to-do list. I need
Yeah,
to find my style.
exactly. Yeah. Or like, I
Mm.
need to pick this thing out, or like, what am I even going to do? And I do think that's like good to call out. And that's why people do appreciate when someone helps them with it and it can take the
Mm.
thinking out of it. It's just like when I work with a person that does branding for me, you know, things like that, because I want it to look a certain way. I hired a photographer, right? Like instead of
Mm.
having a friend that's like a pretty
Yeah.
decent photographer do it, because it's it's just someone that can help take that barrier from me, and
Mm.
yet the results are going to feel really good. Or if you
Yeah,
don't
sure.
have that privilege, it is a privilege to have someone, you know, help guide you through that. Um, just being able to, like, I just recommend people to pick one thing that might make you feel good, or you know, notice
Mm.
those moments when you do want to use that tool in your toolbox, because you don't need to do it every day, you know, it doesn't
Mm.
have to be another thing. But yeah, I just wanted to call it out because I'm like, I think sometimes for me it like looks like it's easy because it's just, that's what I
Yeah.
gravitate towards, but the things that are hard for
Mm.
me are in other areas, right?
Yeah, of course. Everybody has their, areas where they feel more comfortable and which are
Mm-hmm.
easier, but yeah, it's funny to see like how easy it comes to some people and to others, but I guess that's just, the way it is. And then looking for someone who can help you, I think is super valuable because then you can, it's like a frame of like, this person is going to help me achieve that goal, and you can just basically be open and be held, and this person's
Yeah.
just like holding space for you, and I think it's so beautiful rather than just getting overwhelmed yourself with doing it all on your own. So I love like getting help from different people to help me with different things because yeah, we're
Yeah.
not
I
experts
mean,
in every single area. So
and it's just, I mean, it's just been like on my mind and my jam lately to be around this community of mostly women, but people, like the support and all that has been such a common theme, or things that I noticed like literally like put my heart on fire
mm,
lately. And, you know, it can even just be that friend that you're like trying to decide and they do it. I had a friend help me pick my outfits yesterday. And at one point I was like, I'm a stylist and I'm having someone help me, you know, but it's just like that support and that comfort, and that again, like help someone when I'm really overwhelmed and I don't want to have
mm,
another thing in my brain. someone to just
Yeah,
help like step in and like
exactly.
help take that burden or that thing that's challenging for
Mm,
you off of you. And that happened to me just the other day. I was like, here's
mm,
the outfits I'm thinking about, but I can't, the decision seems too big for me, like,
mm,
or
yeah.
how do I want to show myself? It felt really important in that moment. Like someone's gonna take a picture of me, it's gonna last for a long time. What's my one shot, which is ridiculous, but like what's this like chance to like appear in a certain way versus just
Mm,
how I dress up any day. And if I at the end of the day was like, oh, that outfit looks stupid, who cares? It's just another
mm,
day. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I guess we're so used to, trying to do everything ourselves and also not investing in ourselves and like not, especially people like me, who have a lot of like issues with like self-worth, and you're just like thinking, oh my God, I can't spend that money on myself, to hire someone, or, I don't
yeah,
deserve this, or I should maybe use my money to do something more
I do that all the
like
time. Yeah,
useful, or, it's like all these limiting beliefs of like, yeah, no, you can hire someone to help you with your style or to help you with, healing in other areas of your life. So
yeah,
I think that's just super important. And I think it's really important that we move more towards this mindset of like, it's an investment and it's gonna make me feel good. So of course it's worth, investing. So yeah.
self-care. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. I think that uncovering, and for some coaches or healers, or it's more appropriate than others. But what you were saying about earlier, like what's the link to the things, in terms of disordered eating or things like that. Like you said, it just doesn't usually just doesn't happen. Like what was the link to all of it too?
mm,
And so I think that support too, and having people like help you tease out. That's been what's really valuable for me in the past couple of years. Like help me tease
yeah.
out what some of those things are or notice them or slowing down again in the moment and like seeing what's
Mm,
happening. So it's like kind of cheesy, but there was a moment yesterday during our shoot where I had some women who graciously volunteered to do this image I had in my mind, which was like a community of women together feeling a little vulnerable. So we were in modest underwear sets, but I was like, this is so funny. I was so uncomfortable just an hour ago by myself, done up,
mm.
like, full outfit planned. And now I'm in my underwear with more people around. And I
Yeah,
feel so much more comfortable now. Like, I think it
yeah.
was like the combination of one, literally letting go, like letting go of my clothing, like being
Mm,
who I am, like in my body, and also feeling really supported again with other
mm.
people,
Yeah,
which
it's beautiful.
usually I'm like, I'm very good like one on one, but usually like bigger groups of people, I get like nervous, I shut down a little bit. But it was like
Mm,
the right energy, right people, everybody was willing to be vulnerable in that
mm,
moment. And like, I think had so much love for each other because we were all like doing it together, going through it together, being
mm.
like a little silly too. And I was like, I said it was kind of like cheesy, but I was like, this is really cool. Like literally like
Yeah, it's
letting
super
our guard down,
powerful.
letting go and
Yeah.
having support. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I can't wait till those
Beautiful.
photos come back. I'm obviously still like on a high from it, but it
Yeah,
was
me
just like so
too.
good. And I was like, this is why I want to keep doing these series and stuff too, because we're connecting, like you said, we're sharing stories, like we're allowing ourselves to see each other
Mm,
fully or see another level that we I think are taught to like keep hidden. Like I think a lot of the things that came up for me stemmed from perfectionism, trying to be perfect, trying to have an image all the time, and like that like
mm,
brought some of this. So just being able to like let some of that go and
yeah.
have someone else hear it and probably relate to it, just think is just
Mm.
lovely. Yeah.
It's powerful, yeah. And that's how, things change because if we keep everything to ourselves, our struggles, our insecurities, then, everybody's just gonna live their lives in their own little space, and there's no connection, there's no interaction, there's no inspiration, there's no, there's no energy moving. And I think that's why I love, sharing my story, even though sometimes it feels a bit uncomfortable, because you're
Of
like,
course.
oh, who's gonna watch, who's gonna watch
Yeah, I'm
this?
like, who's
But
gonna watch this? Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I don't know. Since I started, like last year, I think in the beginning it was really, really challenging for me to share, but now I'm kind of used to it, so it's not even that hard anymore.
Yeah.
and just seeing the impact it can have, it's just so much more rewarding than, you know, than like being in the fear of like, okay, what are others gonna think about me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. This like careful balance we have to play with our nervous system about like sometimes taking those risks and moving forward and noticing that we survived and it was okay.
Mm,
And then the next time we say it out loud or we do the thing, like it's even
mm,
easier, but like also not pushing ourselves to
yeah.
be in a situation that's gonna be like too much. And um, I had hired a coach for a little bit. Hey Sophie, if you're watching. And it was great because I realized at that time I did need like the push from
Mm,
somebody to show up in my business more fully, and that's still a hard thing for me to do, and I'm still like working
mm,
through. But there were some things that I was like, I don't know, I can do that. I don't know what people are going to think. Like, I don't know this thing.
yeah.
And it was like, by just doing it and like recognizing I did it
Mm,
and it was okay. And like, but also like, ooh, that made my heart pound. Like, that was really
yeah.
scary. And then, these are small things. These are not big, big things that need to be
Mm,
taken one at a time. But I was like, okay, I can do that again. And it's going to be hard again, but I can do it. And each time it gets easier. So,
yeah. And each
um,
time you grow a little bit more, and
yeah,
that's really beautiful. Yeah.
yeah. And you see the results of it. So, like what you were saying about, this was really scary to share and you started doing it, but now it's not as hard to share and everything. Like,
Mm,
for me, I think the results would be like, not only are you still here and it's okay, but like other people have said like, yeah, I had
mm,
something like that happen too, right? Or oh my
yeah.
gosh, I felt that way too. And it's like that's that like that's the reward. I hate to say that, but that's like the thing
Mm,
that was like, yeah, okay,
yeah.
like you can see like the impact it's having and it's really beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. And I feel like, so when I really share from the heart and I'm vulnerable and all of that, that's when people connect the most to me, and that's when I
Yeah.
have the most replies to my stories or whatever. Like that's when
Yeah.
people really, feel like the authenticity of what you're saying, and how it has affected you, and maybe can relate to it as well because they are going through something similar. And I think that's much so I'm not about like sharing all the time super vulnerable stuff, but
Yeah, of
just when
course
you
not.
feel like it, and stop like putting a mask on, and like acting like someone you're not, or acting like everything is always perfect. And we see so much of that on Instagram. I feel like that it's so hard to connect to those people sometimes, or
Yeah.
to this like perfect content, because you're like
Right.
that, like I don't feel anything, I can't relate to that. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone said one time like that they were I don't know what the context of it was, but they were basically like having a moment where they're like, why am I not, getting this? Everybody else is and stuff. And the realization later was like to cool it because it's like, I'm not that special. And at first I was like, what do you mean? And I was like, but like, it's not like I'm so special that I'm the only person that can't be getting
Yeah,
this. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
somebody
true.
else is like that too. And like really like lowering yourself down from the
Mm,
pedestal we all put ourselves on too. And just being like,
mm,
it's okay. Like you can't possibly be the first person that's never understood whatever
mm,
this thing is or experienced this thing or,
mm,
and I think that's what gets my heart pounding a lot of times is like in a scary way is like, yeah, what are people going to think of me? Like, what's this? Like, this is my image they know of me or no one else is like, I'm crazy, whatever. And it's like, no, it's pretty common. Most of the things that we
mm,
go through as humans, like
yeah.
we have so many shared experiences that it's just where I think we're in service to each other when we
Mm,
feel safe and comfortable to open up because that's allowing someone else like to
mm,
feel okay to be
exactly.
open up
Yeah.
to as appropriate for them and like feel safe too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I appreciate you and everybody else. I think it's just been like so lovely to be able to share like this and have people benefit from it. I've gotten,
Mm,
messages too and stuff about, how much they've enjoyed these and just think it's really lovely. Yeah.
yeah, I love it as well. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course, of course. You and I know we had a lot of scheduling going back and forth, so I'm so happy like we had it happen
Yeah.
and it's here. Um, yeah, I'm feeling good. Is there anything you wanted to, anything else you wanted to share? Anything you wanted to leave people with? If not, that's okay too. But I always like to invite
Mm,
people to leave people with someone.
no, I think, we covered everything. And
Yeah.
yeah, if someone wants to talk more, like, don't hesitate to reach out to me or maybe to Amanda as well. I mean, I always love when people get inspired what I have to say or my experience, my own journey, and when they also, feel ready to move to the next level to really break through. And so I'm always open for messages or, questions. And so
Yeah, definitely. If you're someone that's followed me and found this today, check out what Lydia's doing and see, what she's in service to. And yeah, if you have any questions or anything like that, and of course, like I said at the beginning, if you joined late, like if you feel inspired and feel like you would really like to share your story, I'm happy to keep hosting these past October. So DM me if that's something you're interested in, and if you feel called to have some support in your body journey or styling, shoot me a DM. Or I have a few different offers, but I do customized plans, and there's one called the 30-day style journey that I think covers a lot of things that we talked about today. But I'm always just available for questions and cheerleading, and I just really like making people feel good about themselves. So I'm always around for questions. But thank you so much again, Lydia,
yeah,
for
thank you.
joining me today. And I'm just so grateful again for like the connections I made this past year, and love that
Yeah,
we've
the
started this
same.
connection together.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love following your journey as well. And
Yeah,
I'm excited to
awesome.
see all the photos and
I know.
all the new
Can't
things
wait
you're
to get some
creating.
sneak peeks. Yeah, it was so fun. It was such a good day. Yeah,
Yeah, I
awesome.
love photo shoots as well. I remember my last one last year was just it just feels so good, So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like when it's done and you see yourself in a different way, like it makes you feel
Mm,
really good about yourself. Even as hard as it was for me in the moment, I was like, I'm gonna see some photos at the end of this that I'm gonna be like, wow,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
really cool.
yeah.
So,
Love it.
yeah, awesome. Thank you again, and
Thank
have
you,
an awesome
Amanda.
day.
Yeah, you
All right,
too. Talk to you
bye.
soon.
Yep.
Bye.